The second area of interest of the Earthlight Institute is the Visualization Project. Now, the Visualization Project is being headed by Pat Rawlings, one of the noted space artists of the planet, actually. The idea of the Visualization Project is to bring together a group of artists and visualizers, which will include film people, animators, maybe eventually writers, sculptors, all kinds of people who share the idea that human settlement is the goal in space and want to visualize that. They will be working on what we call technically real, vision-based space art. There are lots of different ideas we're looking at. Some of them are shareware space art or open source space art. Like somebody might put down the image of a Mars horizon, and then the next artist might roll in and put a lander on it. And then the next one, it's almost like SimCity in space kind of thing, except done by artists who really know their stuff. They're also going to share wireframe modeling with each other. They're going to create a community of discussion. We're going to probably ask the artists to donate one free piece per year to the public domain. Whether or not they've had a client pay for it or whatever, we don't care. But that piece in some way indicate human settlement. They also become the propaganda wing for our movement, because these guys can visualize the kind of cultural stuff we're talking about. They can also visualize the engineering that the engineers are over here working at, so we can get support for it. The idea, again, is to bring all of these different activities that we've all been working on in the space field together in a strategic way that advances this cause. So the Art Visualization Project might take the lunar rover design that they're working on and hand it over to the animators. The animators will then put together, and these guys can then go out and pitch it and use it to raise funds. Or it might show up in a YouTube video that, with all the thrilling music and such tied into it, comes out and says, we have a future, you have a future, get involved, Earthlight, get involved, the future is coming. Are you in or are you out? The future is coming. Get people excited about the future again. And we'll be able to show a colony on the moon or a colony on the Mars that is reality-based and not done to get some gigantic contract or never be built and pump some money into a congressional district. It's reality-based. Here's what it could look like. So that's that team. The third team are the legal and policy team. Steve Wolf is heading that. Steve wrote a law and actually got it passed in 1988 called the Space Settlement Act of 1988. For 3 or 4 years, it was actually the law of the United States that human space activities were directed towards the goal of human settlement. NASA hated it because they had a metric to compare their activities to. It would have failed every time. It was quietly eliminated during the Paperwork Reduction Act of the Gore administration, Clinton-Gore administration. Steve has come back in. He's leading this group. We're getting some major people involved. Jack Kennedy from Virginia. Jack wrote the liability laws that set the tone for the United States when it comes to commercial space travel. And he wrote the zero-G, zero-tax laws in Virginia, which are a model that we're using down in Texas and other people are using. So it's a great team. By the way, I left out one of the key players on our visualization, I left out that one of the key players in our RealWare project is Charles Collis, who is with Dyson Limited, which is the vacuum cleaner company, which I consider a genius shop, and we're just thrilled to have Charles on board. He is in charge of advanced projects for what I consider an advanced projects company. He and Eric Evanson, who comes from some DARPA NASA lineage, are working together on that. Very exciting team. So we put these 3 legs together. The law and policy, I should say this, excuse me. The law and policy group of Earthlight is going to be looking at the different laws that are out there, the Space Settlement Act, the Outer Space Treaty, the Moon Treaty, and coming at them from a very pro-settlement orientation. In other words, this isn't some subcommittee of AIAA or some other space group or something like that. These guys are coming at it from, we want space settlement, what laws make that happen? So they may not just review the Outer Space Treaty, they may propose a brand new one, as far as we're concerned. And we want them to come in as sort of the council. We want them to weigh in from a position of authority. So we're talking to some of the top space lawyers in the world to get them involved. All three of these groups interact with each other in different ways, and they're mutually supportive. They all three begin to form a core of credibility around which this new culture can begin to arise. We have these three overt activities, but what really is going on with Earthlight is the creation of a realm within which we give people, to use a phrase from a different project I've worked on, permission to dream. When you're in this culture, you have permission to dream and dream big. And yeah, you'll be checked, you'll be cross-examined by people who know the physics and science of things, but you're in a friendly environment to dream. And we want to encourage people to do that. So the Earthlight movement is going to be the creation of a human space culture on Earth. I'll give you an idea. Let me give you an example. If you look at what happened in the early days of pioneering, people didn't necessarily pioneer to pioneer, if you look at history. People came together under a certain set of beliefs, and then as a people, as a community, or as a culture, as a religion, as whatever, would take that community and move that community to a new place. I'm going to use religion as a couple of examples here, if you don't mind.
It's okay.
I'll use two so they'll neutralize each other. The Pilgrims and the Mormons. They existed as identifiable cultures. They had their own music, they had their own dance, they had their own ways of dressing, they had their own ways of talking, they had their own systems of judgment and law, etc. All of these things already in place. Then they used the space technology of their times and went to new worlds. The Pilgrims used the space technology of their time, sailing ships, crossed the space ocean of their time, and went to a new world to start a civilization where they could practice what they believed. The Mormons, who by the time they were ready to go across the ocean of the time, which was the prairies, had already built their own culture. They used the space technology of the time, the Conestoga wagon, and oxen, to cross that space ocean and go to a new world and set up a community where they could do what they wanted. In a sense, without being theological, we are in Earthlight allowing the creation of the first space culture to begin to arise. Now, we don't care if you're a Catholic or a pilgrim or a pilgrim. We don't care if you're a Catholic or a Methodist or anything like that. It's not at that level. In fact, if somebody were to ask you who you are, what you are as a human being, it's possible that Earthlight, or whatever the term could become of this culture, would be rolled into an answer such that you would say, well, I'm a Protestant, I'm an Earthlighter, I'm a member of the Space Frontier Foundation, and I work for SpaceX. And that would be how you would define who you are. You have a religious affinity, you have a philosophical understanding for what it is you are here to do in your life. You have your organizational and activist side to you that tells you, helps you have a culture and go out and implement that, and then you have your job. The Earthlight Foundation is not an activist organization. It is not going to go out and recruit members to then go out and lobby for specific legislation or anything like that. We're staying literally above the fray. Our goal is to take the solid foundation of art, culture, science, engineering, law, and policy that we create and feed that into the existing advocacy groups in the space community and let them run with it. So we'll be creating art that we will give, that will be donated, that will be put out into the community so that the National Space Society people can go out and show what the world that we are trying to create or live into is going to look like. We will be putting out opinions regarding law and policy so that other groups can go fight for treaties to be enacted or industrial policy to be put in place that enables space settlement. And we will be putting out engineering ideas mainly to keep those other realms credible, to show that this isn't just pie in the sky. We're not just out here goofing around. We know what we're doing. So it's an invitation for people who have been in this field to sort of come out of the airlock and say, this is what I am, this is who I am. I don't have to try and explain it in other terms. I do this because I believe that is why we are here as human beings. So I'm going to build some rockets. And yeah, maybe I'll lose some money. And with any luck, I'll make a lot. But in the meantime, I'm going to do this because I believe in it. See, I believe that in our time in history right now, there is a huge questioning going on. In fact, we have become very, very good at creating the tools and technologies of dialogue and question, in the sense of iPhones, iPads, internet, web, Facebook, we are very chatty right now. We can talk about anything. Well, at some point, culturally, that's got to get old. We need something to talk about. There needs to be a purpose to life rather than just a conversation about life. And we believe that there are people out there who need to hear this message. You exist for a reason. We're right at the beginning of the greatest adventure. We're not at the end of civilization. We're at the bare beginning of the beginning of the beginning. It's all ahead of us. Step up and get involved. Because if you don't, great, you can retreat into video games the rest of your life. You know, you can become a pawn of the state. You can do whatever, but your life will have no meaning. You want to have meaning? Get involved. Let's not just protect this planet, which I'm all for, by the way. I said at one point to you, I may have said to you, I out-environmentalize the environmentalists. Protecting the planet's great, and we should. We need to. I went door to door for Greenpeace in my day. You know, I've been there, done that. Protecting the planet is not an aspiration. It's a necessity. We need to have something as powerful that is a cultural aspiration. Something you want to do, something that excites you and gets you going in the morning. And I believe that being able to say you're a part of a movement that put those lights on the moon, that puts those, you know, the camera images back from Mars, or the building of the first space solar power satellites, or space solar settlements in space, that you're a part of that. That's aspirational. That's exciting. It's motivational. So we believe it's an exciting time to be alive, and we believe it's time for us to say it and say it loud and say it proud. We're here. You know, we're going for it. Let's open the frontier.